go from good to HealthSafeIT good, where excellence is understood. We're beyond good, HealthSafeIT good.
My name's Daniel Buchanan. I'm the Marketing and Recruiting Manager at Stringfellow Technology Group.
And I am Edward Stringfellow, founder of Stringfellow Technology Group. And today my function really is spreading the word of kind of HealthSafeIT and then working with our management team to make sure that we're growing the business appropriately and making sure that we're taking care of our clients. A lot going on right now in security and healthcare. We've been to a couple of different conferences, and AI has changed the game a little bit with how security needs to be done. And I know that sounds kind of strange, but unfortunately, AI can be used for good, but it can also be used for bad. Would you agree with that?
Hackers been using AI for a long time, and scripts and automation. There's a huge breakthrough recently, of course, the ChatGPT era that we live in now. And hackers have access to that. So they don't even have to be that great of a coder now. One of the big things AI does is it helps you code, right?
That's right.
And so they just have to say, build me a piece of malware into a chat bot that they've built on their own computer, right, and then it'll just spit one out for them.
Let me talk through, here's a real simple example, right? This is not hard to do. So we go pick a group that we want to target, right? Well, all you got to do is have a LinkedIn Sales Navigator subscription. So boom, now I've got all the LinkedIn data for organizations, right? We're all on LinkedIn essentially at this point. So now I've got all the different relationships. So I know the practice admin is this person, or I know that the two head providers are these docs, and so all of a sudden I've got kind of a map of the organization. So I take that, I feed that into my bot that I've written, my AI-based bot, and it goes out and scrubs the web and finds all these other different connections. And the next thing you know, I have a spreadsheet with first name, last name, email address, probably not only the corporate email address, but their personal Gmail, because a lot of providers still use Gmail, their personal Gmail address, and their mobile phone number. Mm-hmm. So mobile phones have become pretty ubiquitous in communication at this point. And guess what? The numbers aren't hard to get anymore. Used to be, but not anymore. So now my bot goes and grabs this profile, and the first thing it looks for is new jobs. So guess what it's going to do? Oh, new IT director at healthcare practice. Boom. So it sees that. It's got that name. It knows the number. And then it goes, oh, okay. So it's the new IT director. And then it goes and finds the fact that these two providers, so the next thing you know, you're getting an email from your IT director saying, hey, I'm about to send a code to your mobile device, blah, 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 blah. I mean, and it seems, it's really hard to detect. It's just a user, right? So the AI does all this, sends a thing, gets a code, grabs your credentials. And the trick is if you're not properly set up and secured, and I'm not just talking MFA, because we just defeated MFA, right? Because that all got defeated. But if you're not really set up, secured with some things that we do here at HealthSafeIT, if you're not that way, then they're in. And then once they have their credentials, all they're trying to do now is get credentials to the EHR. And what is also a little bit concerning is a lot of EHRs, they have MFA because they have to, but it's not implemented well. So EHRs in and of themselves aren't that secure. So I hop into I get into your Microsoft account, and then I get into your Active Directory. Basically they land and expand, and then they try to go, and then they'll set up a bunch of credentials in your EHR. And then guess what? They'll wait for a weekend. And typically this happens in the evening before a long weekend. And guess what happens? They log in and they start running reports and downloading data. And then you get the note, Monday morning, hey, it's been encrypted. Encryption, a lot of times if they're doing ransomware and stuff, they're going to go and download and pull all the stuff out prior to letting anyone know, right? And so the key is...
You mean encryption in terms of, encryption's great, it's not a bad thing in and of itself, but you mean
encrypting your data. Ransomware.
There we go. Yeah.
Ransomware. So they're going to if you have an on-prem EHR, like you're running the EHR still, let's have a plan not to do that, right? Yeah. Unless you're some very, very large health system, that just doesn't make much sense anymore. So a takeaway there is if you have an on-prem, you're still running servers and you're running the EHR directly, we really need to have a plan. If You like your EHR, that's great. Most large providers now will at least offer a hosted option.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean it's cloud. It just means that the EHR vendor is going to host it. Jury's out on whether that's better or not. But from a risk and a liability perspective, from a practice, like, yes, you want them to run their services and you just log on to it. Does that make sense?
It does. I've come into situations before where there's been EHRs that were being hosted locally, looking to cloud solutions. Come to find out, they already had cloud solutions. They were paying for the license for cloud solutions. They just weren't using it. They were like still hosting it locally, and they're actually charging them more to host it locally, which is awesome.
I mean, that's why you need a healthcare centric IT partner, because they get all that. Traditional IT is just focused on, traditional IT. Oh, do the computers, are they patched and they updated, and do they work, and the network, and can people log in? Well, that's important stuff, but it's not far enough. And so the security piece of IT really has to be baked in now. We've had this advent, so there was MSPs and these other groups, and then there was MSSPs.
Right.
And so now it's like, okay, more tools, more security. And so they have their traditional MSP, and then they just start layering, these groups layer, whether the MSP brings it in or they bring it, it doesn't matter. But now we've got about 4 different things going on, and none of it's really coordinated. And while it seems like that would make you more secure, the reality is you want the one group or solution. We call it HealthSafeIT, but you want this one group that brings all the tools together and integrates them and watches and manages them. So this whole, we've got traditional IT, and then your traditional IT group's bringing you 8 different add-on security solutions. At some point I would question, it's like, shouldn't all this just be baked in? A lot of times they bring you a solution and a price tag. Because a lot of times it's not fully integrated, and they're going, hey, practice admin, do you want to be more secure? Well, yeah. Well, do you want to pay $50 more a user a month? And it's like, well, no, I don't. There's got to be a balance.
Well, and then so if you've got an MSP or you've got an internal IT group, but then you've got a security provider, an outsourced security provider. Well, then who's doing what? Okay, they're doing security, but do they still have the insight they need into your IT system, like your information systems? Do they even know what's going on? Or are they just kind of reading logs and reacting to logs? Are they able to respond meaningfully?
The left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing, so they're getting alerts and flags that we're not aware of because it's not integrated with us, and they're causing issues when they're doing remediation. It's just kind of a mess. Security should be built into whatever, if you have an outsourced provider, partner, whatever, like 24/7 monitoring. And we've recently shifted. We've always offered, we've always done the 24/7, we're monitoring, obviously, that's pretty straightforward. But what about 24/7 response? AI doesn't sleep. AI is also programmed to know when's the best time to launch an attack or to hack or those types of things. So with HealthSafeIT, we said, hey, look, it can't be optional anymore. I can't go to the client and say, hey, would you like a SOC, is what it's typically called, Security Operations Center. It can't be an add-on. It can't be something and it can't be so expensive that you're just always going to say no. It has to just be part of the service.
Well, it can't be optional, right?
And it can't be optional. So so if you're a healthcare IT provider, which is what we are, you got to figure that out, and we have figured it out, and we've integrated it into what we're doing. But if you're a practice admin and you're having people come to you, and it's always an extra fee, and it's additional and optional, that's not great. Because when it's optional, all that's going to happen when you have a breach was the first thing that the provider's going to say. Remember when I asked you to spend an extra $4,000 a month, and you said no, and da-da-da. Well, I get it's financial, but did that provider, did they do a good job explaining the implications? Did they do their work to integrate it properly? And typically the answer is no. Security should be built in. It should just be part of what's going on. It shouldn't be an add-on or optional. And it should be 24/7. We've seen it too many times. Sure, we've detected and stopped tons of breaches all the time. It happens all the time, but the trend is that it's happening all the time. And so unless you have 24/7 monitoring and response, it's the 24/7 response that we've baked in that I think is going to make the difference. Because if you don't have that, I know that your chance for a successful breach is going to be much higher.
So it sounds to me like we're talking about hacking systems. We talked a little bit in the beginning about hacking people, and I think it would be useful to make a differentiation between those two, because hacking a system, I think a lot of healthcare providers would just say, well, you guys are y'all are protecting our systems, right? Like our systems are protected. We have firewalls, we have all the things in place. But that's not the only way. That's not the only thing that gets hacked, right? So there's also people can be hacked as well. So what does that mean? How do you hack a person?
So yeah, hacking a person, typically referred to as social engineering, right? It's just tricking somebody. Microsoft just called me. Is that okay? It's like, no, Microsoft's never going to call you, and that's an example of social engineering. Again, now that I've got your name, your corporate email, your personal email, your cell phone number, and I know the reporting structure of your org with your boss, like all of a sudden it's real easy for me to say, hey, Daniel, your boss said that, I need to send you this text and you need to go get these gift cards. I mean, that's a pretty prevalent thing, and people fall for it because, it all lines up, right? Not only the criminals have gotten smarter, but AI also helps them put the pieces of the puzzle together. AI can even pull in from social media, and that's how these people, they'll get messed up on a home closing because somebody's putting, oh, we're so excited to move into our new home, or we found it, and next thing you know, the bank draft comes through like in perfect timing, and that's what happens. So when we talk about hacking people, that's social engineering. The only way to do that is training and education. You have to provide security rules training anyway. So let's go beyond just barely checking a box. Let's make it part of what's going on all the time. So we've integrated training. Actually, we've integrated our training directly into Microsoft Teams. So it's awesome. It's just sitting right there. It lets you know when you need to complete your training, and it's just easy. We've got to make training be part of the workflow, not something you do extra, because that training is very important. The social engineering and understanding, wait a second, Microsoft would never call and ask for our password. HealthSafeIT doesn't ever ask for my password. They'll reset it, but nobody ever should ask for your password. You should, all those types of things. And training will help with that. The other piece is business email compromise. So that's the emails with bad links and stuff like that. Those have gotten so good. We can only put so much technology in place to stop it. We can't just be completely ignorant of security and be like, oh, IT's got it. You've got to have some awareness. And so having training be part of there's the 24/7 monitoring. And to your point, that's kind of systems and kind of technical. But then you're right, there's the training piece that also should not be optional and be included. And in our case, we provide some tools directly in Microsoft 365, right? I wonder if this, and you can click right there and it'll analyze the email in real time and talk you through this. You can agree or not. You can take a training right there. So I think training and awareness is also super important. It is also, I don't know about the first line of defense, but it is a very strong line of defense against the business email compromise.
Anybody at any point in time can go and sign up for an Outlook.com or a Gmail address, and they can call themselves whatever they want to. They can set a reply to different email address, and they can shoot those emails out and look like they're anybody at any point in time, right? You could just do this today. It'd take us 5 minutes to do it.
So the Postal Service, I don't know how many of us are still writing letters, but I could go grab a stack of envelopes right now and send a letter to anybody I wanted and put your return address on it. There's nothing you can do to stop me. Mm-hmm. And I could write, you're Daniel, Knoxville, Tennessee, put your address, boom, and I can mail those to anybody I want. There's not a thing you're going to be able to do to keep that from happening. That's how email works. Email is not, it's techie, but it's not magic, right? It's the exact same thing. So I can spoof or forge or fake the return address on an email, and I can send out. So all the time people, oh my God, I got hacked. Oh, I got an email from you. No, you didn't. It was a forged email. The internet, specifically the email standards, if you were, they finally caught up, and there's some things, and I don't want to get too nerdy, but Google has just enforced this. I think Yahoo has as well. The big groups having what's called DMARC and DKIM, and going forward, that return address will be validated. And if your organization isn't set up for that, A, you'll stop getting legitimate emails from people, which would be a problem, or B, if they're not set up also, then it'll keep happening. So it's trivial to fake the return address on an email. That said, again, if your provider or your IT, even if you have 365, PS, unfortunately, natively, this is not set up this way. You have to know how to configure these things. But anyway, if you get DMARC and DKIM and those things are the way they're supposed to be, now, when someone gets an email from you, it'll go ask and say, hey, is this a legit valid ping? And it'll say no. And then your email system, actually, you can tell it to quarantine it or straight up delete it or let it through, which I wouldn't do that. There's a lot of organizations that have their email not set up this way and some that are, and the challenge is then we have delivery issues. And so we've all got to push towards having it set up securely so we don't have delivery issues. We get a lot of spam is this spam? Is this? And I've just got to say, at some point, if you have to forward it to your help desk or your support people and ask if it's spam, then it's spam.
So in my mind, when people are kind of evaluating what they need and where they're at, people are possibly searching out for local providers, right? We've already talked about some of the downsides of the local providers, the fact that they kind of have a smaller geographical area and that they may take on all industries. So they're in very high demand, but there's not as much supply of them, right? So there's obviously a little bit of a challenge there. Why is that kind of the wrong approach, and what should people really be looking for as far as a health IT partner?
Yeah, so first of all, like limiting yourself to a geography in today's world, especially post-COVID, so we've proven that we can remotely manage and support essentially anything at this point. So, but oftentimes we get asked, it's like, well, what about on-site IT? So let's just break down the myth of on-site IT. There is no on-site IT anymore. Back in the day, the networks were unstable, physical gear failed a lot more, there weren't as many redundancies built in, and so yeah, you had to physically show up to touch the workstation or the server or the network gear. I mean, it was less reliable, and so yeah, you had to come on site to do that. But in today's world, on-site really consists of plugging something in. And our approach has been, hey, look, if you think that IT work is literally plugging in an HDMI cable or maybe even a docking cable, like that's not IT work. That's just being, a staff member in an organization in 2024. So if you say, hey, I don't want my providers ever to have to do anything but talk to patients and interface with them, that's fine. That's really more a facilities type role. Again, that's not really IT. If you've got a lot of moves, adds, and changes, you've got more than 50 people in a location, yeah, there can be a computer moving around pretty often. And so we say, hey, look, that role that needs to do that would be like an IT coordinator. Again, these aren't IT skills. This is just a person that enjoys really plugging stuff in and moving stuff around. If a provider or a group you're working with has to show up to fix things, then I would suggest that they probably aren't doing the right things on the back end, because that just doesn't happen. I mean, we're supporting groups in, I think today, almost 30 states, thousands of end users, multiple time zones. We certainly don't have the capability to show up at any of those groups, in a reasonable time frame. Planned work, projects, we're setting up a new site, a location, planned implementation. Sure, yeah. Now we get people on site often, but we don't on-site IT support. If you're experiencing that or have a dedicated person that's just running around fixing issues, that's horribly inefficient, doesn't scale, and that should not be a reason not to consider finding a provider that is a health first, healthcare first IT provider like HealthSafeIT.
So it almost sounds to me like what people think IT is really a red flag.
Elaborate a little more.
Well, you think about it. So like everybody thinks, oh, IT, well, they come hook something up for me, right, or they come fix things when it's broken. Right. And in all actuality, that's kind of a red flag, because the real question should be, why are things breaking?
Bingo. So often people don't, they do. They go, oh, well, it's a little bit like reverse hero theory. They're not connecting the dots between the tactical, reactive, on-site IT person. That's how they keep relevant, right? And things break and they fix them, and you get in this that, oh, well, I have to have my IT guy because stuff breaks all the time and he's here really quickly. What if stuff didn't break? We've talked previously about technical debt. Like if you got a massive pile of technical debt and you can't properly fund and you have no planning or strategy to get out of it, yeah, it's called the reactive death spiral. Everything's reactive. It's Band-Aids and patches, and it's very important when you're looking for an IT partner, limiting yourself to who's local, to your point, or on-site or whatever. I mean, we have groups following the old model. It's like the MSP the traditional MSP model of patch and update and monitor and manage, and then plus they're providing a full-time on-site resource. Well, that just says to me that they don't understand how to deliver their services, and rather than figure that out, they're just going to charge you for a Band-Aid. The people that are doing on-site IT support are typically very nice, and they want to help, and they're good people, and they're helpful, and all those things. But you've got to take that out of it and think about the role. Why do I have a role in my organization that requires a provider to call them, go do something else while they wait for them to physically appear, fix the issue, do this, move them out of their chair. I mean, it's horribly inefficient versus let's eliminate as many issues as we can. And then the issues become very simple. Password reset, do this, set this up. Like just minor stuff that's a quick help desk call with an under 10-minute end-to-end resolution time and a 12-second answer time. I mean, who doesn't want that? That is what HealthSafeIT delivers. And the question is, how do we get a prospective client to understand, like, hey, you're here, and we have a plan to get you here. We've done it hundreds of times. You know, one of the first steps is, hey, all right, here's the plan. Often there is no IT plan. An IT plan is not let's replace the servers when they get old. An IT plan is not let's replace workstations as they break. IT strategy is not we randomly move things to the cloud. Like that doesn't work. It's very reactive and it doesn't necessarily align. You don't get the maximum value. And so what you want is for a group to come to you with a plan that they have done many, many times. So we've implemented the same, sure, it's modified depending on maybe the size of your organization, the specialties you might be in. But the reality is the HealthSafeIT roadmap is proven across hundreds of implementations. And so we don't have to change it. We have to modify wherever you are. There might be different orders of some things, but at the end of the day, we've got the plan. We've already got it thought out. And we know it works. And so that's what you want. You don't want a provider, an IT provider, coming to you asking if you want this security thing or that security thing, or are you ready to do this? That's backwards. They need to be coming to you saying, hey, here's the order of these things, here's the annual budget, agree on that, and execute. Traditional IT and really in-house IT, it's not that. It's reactive. And I keep hearing, oh, well, we've got a plan. Oh, yeah, we're going to the cloud. And you look, and they've moved a piece to the cloud, but they left the rest in the servers. So now you're in the worst of all worlds. Now I'm paying cloud service fees, and I'm having to maintain a server because we didn't think through, oh, well, we still need this. And it just becomes kind of a mess. With any IT provider, you want them to come to you with a clear track record and a plan. It's like, hey, we're going to put this plan in for you. It's plug and play in the sense that we have some check boxes and blanks to fill in to figure out what goes first, like I said, but we're not like figuring this out with you. Like if you want to be involved in IT, I guess that's a personal choice, but the reality is most groups we work with, they want IT to function and work and be effective, and that's it.
So this sounds great, and it sounds like it's going to be a lot of changes and things are going to be really different. And I know a lot of groups are probably worried about turning the apple cart, changing around things too much. People have to learn a bunch of new things and stuff. How do we maintain a smooth transition either from what we're doing or not doing now to what we should be doing?
Right. So change is scary. We've talked in the past about, healthcare groups are typically resistant to change because whatever's working, and we've got high volumes. We don't have time for change. It comes back to really experience and having done hundreds of onboardings and having so we have a very clear 60-day process. We know what we need to accomplish in the first 30 days as far as documentation and understanding the environment. Once we have all that information, now we can prioritize what needs to happen in the next 30 days so that then by day 60, we're ready to turn on the service desk and provide services. That typically doesn't vary, even really depending on the size of the organization. If you have a massive amount of technical debt, which some groups do, your roadmap might get kind of changed up a little bit. We might have to figure out, like there's some high priority stuff like security, right? Like if you just don't have security, well, that's going to be put up front and get done. But as far as like transition and not having support, that just doesn't really happen anymore. I would suggest that if your environment is so special, so unique, so screwed up, if you have even semi-functioning IT, the transition to going with a HealthSafeIT model, it should be seamless. We shouldn't have email disruption. There shouldn't be email disruptions. There shouldn't be this. There might be additional training that the users have to do, which is part of our service. And there might be additional security, like if you're not doing, MFA and codes on your phone, we'll have to roll that out. There will be changes in the environment, but not disruptive. They're hopefully positive changes to increase security and productivity. We've done this so many times at this point. We have the documentation, we have the communication packages, but we're very comfortable with how to transition into managing a practice's IT with minimal disruption.
What's the difference between reactive IT and responsive or proactive IT in healthcare?
In general, I would hope people understand kind of to be reactive is something happens and I react to it. right? It's like touching a hot stove. It's hot. Boop, I jump back. Provider calls in, virus alerts on screen. I react. I start shutting things down, and then I start buying random security products to put on. And it's not part of a plan. It's just I'm reacting to something that happened. Versus the proactive approach is, hey, we already have taken into account, hey, we know people are going to click on links. We know that the AI hackers are going to get at. We know all these things. So we're going to, in advance of something happening, put all these safeguards in place. We want to minimize our attack area, and we want to minimize our chance. It's like locking the windows and doors on your house. Like, the reality is, all the big breaches that we're seeing here recently in the past couple months here in 2024, it's been just an unlocked window or door. Just an oversight. It's not been some complex multi-year hack. It's just been like these groups got really large really fast. They had technical debt. They couldn't get to it. They made an oversight. People make errors. And then AI has accelerated. So think about this. It used to be, a thief, to rob a neighborhood, he's got to walk and it takes a while. Well, with AI, they can go canvass a city, right? So it never sleeps. And so the basics of being reactive versus responsive, you have to proactively make sure all the windows and doors are locked and have a plan to do that really pretty quickly. Because again, you're not going to have the luxury with AI and the acceleration of their ability to probe and look at what's going on. Like, you want to proactively do that, because otherwise you will reactively be dealing with somebody in your house. And that's that mindset. And in traditional IT, proactive is not, well, let's set up antivirus and stuff so that we get alerts. I mean, the reality is, once you've gotten the alert, that means it happened. Now you're reacting to the alert. So we're trying to really minimize the alert and put the security and depth in place, and start all the way back with user training. So if they don't click on the link to begin with, then we don't even get into the fact that we need safe links and safe attachment zone, and then we need EDR. And so if we stop it at layer one, which is really training, awesome. Yeah, and defense in depth is still the play. The reality is, it's layers of planned integrated security. Traditional IT is typically a lot of bolt-ons. So it's one independent system over here doing some alerting and another one over here. They need to work together, at least internally to the provider, have a clear picture of what's going on. And reactive doesn't have the clear picture. Reactive is a lot of phone calls, a lot of quick coming over and doing stuff, but that becomes a pattern and people get numb to it. Proactive IT, I tell you, a lot of groups that, a year, 12 months in, and we're settling in and getting to know each other, and things are rolling along. They're like, wow, this is crazy. Like, I didn't know that I would have to call the help desk 3 times a week.
So if I'm not getting as many tickets and stuff's not breaking as much, how do I make sure that I'm still taking advantages of the services and the products that we offer? And how do I maximize my return on investment for my IT spend? Like, if everything's working great, then what do we do, with all that extra time, and what do we do? But what are we paying for if everything's working, right?
Well, so that's what you're paying for, is the extra time, is the outcome. So often people equate, well, y'all, we don't call y'all anymore. Y'all don't do any work. It's like, well, hold on. It's very easy. Like, we can make if we turn all this stuff off, you'll be calling us all the time. We'll be doing a ton of work. There's got to be a give and take. And like with HealthSafeIT, again, our goal is to minimize any reactive issues and proactively address things. Plan annually so that your budget's set and done. I mean, the goal is that it should take, whoever our point of contact is, you shouldn't be spending more than 8 hours a year with IT. And that's kind of 2 or 3 planning meetings and you're good to go. So, and I'd suggest to you, if you're not constantly dealing with maybe downtime or how to move this file here and here because the systems aren't set up efficiently. You're not using Microsoft Teams, which we really like. Like, you're not set up efficiently. Like, that time you get back, for one, you see more patients. 2, take a break during the day. I mean, like, it's up to you what to do with that time. But I would say that time that you get back is very valuable. And on an ongoing basis, hopefully we'll continue to make improvements. We give you a little more. At some point, yeah, we're in somewhat of a steady state, and that's good for both of us, right? Because if we're in a steady state, it means you have maximum time available, no reactive issues, your day's not being interrupted, and candidly, we're feeling good that our roadmap's delivering what we said. Operators are standing by, but okay, you're not having to call all the time.
Well, this all sounds really great, but I mean, of course, it all comes down to the bottom line. What does something like HealthSafeIT cost for like a single site clinic? I mean, a small group.
We've come up with two different approaches, right? So if you literally are a single site, typically under 50 users, which most single sites are under 50 users, we've actually come up, if you're a single site under 50 users, we're in a position now because of the maturity of our services, we actually can do that just on a literal fixed fee. You know, depending on size, I mean, you could be as low as 40 to maybe $60,000 a year, which is obviously would likely in most markets not get even a single competent IT resource, and certainly not one that you would want to stay long term. So on the single site side, but you're a single site, you're steady state, you've got maybe some older providers and they're rolling out, the new folks are coming in, and you know that kind of thing. That's your game plan. That single site model is great. It's literally a single monthly fee. It doesn't fluctuate based on users or this or that. It's just what it is. So that's for single sites. Having a lot of success and interest in that, because in a single site world, margins are typically under a lot of compression and all that too. So they like the idea that it's literally just this one consistent fee, versus if they've added a couple folks or go down, it's easy to budget. Our multi-site groups, typically multi-site groups are not stagnant. They're growing and they want to grow and they want to do acquisitions. They merge with other groups. A lot of times we'll have a platform group come to us, and so they're like, we want you to do the IT. But the deal is we're 3 today, but we're going to go on an acquisition bin. So we get in and we do the obviously we get the platform onboarded, and then we boom. So we do integrations all the time, and acquisitions, integrations, whatever you want to call them. So on the multi-site side, that pricing is more utility based. So that pricing will be based off of supported users and then locations. So the idea there, you know exactly what your price to do an acquisition from an IT perspective. Hey, we're looking at an acquisition. They've got 3 clinics and 150 people. You can plug right into your acquisition model. Hey, this is what my IT support cost will be. Groups like that really like that. It helps them understand costs of scaling up and down. And the HealthSafeIT roadmap is built to scale like that. Like it's built as cloud-based. It's built to be able to set up clinics. During COVID, we had just a de novo group was starting up, urgent care group, April of 2020. Didn't know, it's kind of a strange time for everybody, but we successfully helped them set up 15 clinics over the next 18 months. And of course, they were urgent care, so it's pretty lucrative at that time. But anyway, we got 15 clinics set up in Texas, Iowa, and one other state without having to go on site to any of them, and it all worked great. So the HealthSafeIT roadmap, if you're planning on any type of scale, it's really proven for that. So on the multi-site side, those are some advantages. Not that, if you're multi-location and you don't plan on scaling, it also works fine, but most of those groups are looking to do some type of growth, and that's where HealthSafeIT really shines on that side.
Go from good to healthy.